So I would say that United fans should be excited about him. I don't think we should overburden him with expectations, but he's certainly got the ability to help United.
Hello and welcome to the Sports Box. Today we are doing a transfer special, and for a special episode we have a special guest with us. We know him as United Link and one of the most followed Indian football fans across Twitter and across the globe. Please welcome Akash uh, and Akash from United Link. And welcome Akash. Thank you for coming on our show.
Thank you, Puneet. It's a privilege. It's always great to talk football with Manchester United fans and fans all across the globe. I just love talking about football, and I'm happy to come on your show. So thank you for having me on.
Uh, Along with Akash, we obviously have my partner in crime, Prithvi Sehgal, Chelsea fan, objective United fan, and we would like to hear his views as well on the transfer window. We've got Akash from United Link specifically because I have been following him ardently, and all United fans love his objective understanding of the game, understanding of the transfer market, and where United should be. And as passionate as he is, he's very level-headed. So let's quickly deep dive into the topics that we'll start. So Akash, firstly, what do you think of as an overview of the entire transfer window that United have had?
Puneet, when we talk about transfers, and especially Manchester United, a lot of expectations are set because fans usually go crazy when United sign big players. And I think social engagement is one of the highest priorities at the club as well, because they know what engages the fans, and that's transfers. So, United ended the season on a high. I think we finished third. A lot of people were optimistic about our chances after Ole managed to, sort of revive the season. Early on, before the Bruno transfer, I was not so confident with Ole being in place, to be very honest. I think he was losing his touch, losing the players. But once Bruno came in, it's just like United woke up. Uh, and Bruno had such a huge impact on the team that, after we managed to catch Chelsea, and Chelsea managed to slip up. And I think ever since Bruno's arrival, the team really did well and gelled well. So a lot of people were optimistic about our chances after the season ended. I think we didn't do well in the Europa League, but that was a small bump. I think after people would say it would be a successful season. So after United finished third, I think a lot of promises were made by the board to the manager, to the players, that the likes of Sancho might come in. United might go for a centre back. We were linked with Jude Bellingham. We were linked with Jack Grealish, some top players who would, help elevate this team to the next level, just like the transfer window Klopp had before Liverpool became, capable of challenging in Europe and in England. So I think uh, a lot of promises were made, but United being United, it's the same story all over again. I think this summer, where United had ended up, I wouldn't say it's the same story. Like, United were not clinical in the market. They waited for a lot of time to get their signings. Ole was told that signings would come, but when that was not answered, we waited for the last few weeks in the window to get signings like Van de Beek, to get Telles on the last day, to get Cavani on the last day, Pellistri and Traore on the last day. So I think the manager deserves better. If you were Ole, you would feel that, am I not trusted anymore? Am I not being backed anymore? Because when you see the likes of Chelsea, and I think Prithvi would agree that when Frank Lampard would want to be backed, he went to the board and he said, "Look, I want certain players, and if you don't get me these players, I won't be able to help this team move in the direction that I wanted to move." So there you have it, an owner like Roman Abramovich, who has gone ahead and backed his manager to the moon. Actually, he spent, Chelsea not spending last summer or in the last few windows has helped them, but he still has the backing of the board. And here Ole is sitting, literally, he sits here and he has to apologize for being ambitious. So you can imagine the difference in standards at the clubs. So when we talk about United transfers, I think it's shambolic truly, because we tend to spend more in seasons where we make Europa League and not Champions League, because there's a sense of panic that United would lose on revenue. And then also there's that Adidas deal where there are certain clauses which say that, United won't get a certain amount of money if they don't make Champions League for consecutive seasons or so. So you can imagine the kind of level of ambition that's there, because as a United fan, I don't think making top four is good enough. And I think a lot of fans would resonate with me on that.
Absolutely, because I think you raised two really, really strong points from what you've been speaking. Actually, one is like had Ole not performed this season or the last season when United actually sort of came in third, then the question marks would have been raised, and perhaps then he would have been back. And hence, you see a lot of fans actually coming out saying it would have been better that United had not qualified for Champions League. But when he's actually performed at a decently above average level, and the team has hit its weight, you should back him and plan for 2 years, 3 years to get the kind of players. It is shambolic. It is a bit completely off the mark, and there seems to be a severe lack of planning and strategy going into the market. Like you rightly said, last day deals for Cavani and Telles, where these are like basic deals, and Cavani was available for the last 6 months. We knew he's going to become a free transfer. That's what even Chelsea did with Thiago Silva. So I think you've summarized it well. I would like you to deep dive into a couple of players actually. Like I think Cavani and Telles add solid weight to the first team. As much as it's been a dismal window, I think these two would definitely give a lot of coverage to goals and to left back, where we seem to have a lot of attack. So your thoughts on the five critical signings that we have had?
So I think I'd like to start off with Cavani, since you mentioned him. I think Cavani is a brilliant player. To be very honest, there are not many in the game like him, and I think he's a complete player when it comes to his ability, his awareness. He adds another dimension to United's attack, and I'm not just saying that because he signed for United. I'm saying that because he's actually a good player on his day, and if United are able to utilize him in a way that his previous clubs have, I think there's a lot of we shouldn't be as negative as to his age, because I think I've seen a lot of people saying, he's 33 years old or 32 years old and he's past his age. Look, I don't think age is such a critical factor when a player is playing so high up the pitch. I think if United use his movement in the box well, and I think he's got the ability, because he's got such a huge physical presence in the box. Someone like Diego Costa, or someone like Jovic, or someone like Dzeko. When you look at these players, they actually have a lot of presence in the box. So if United use that well, and I think why I'm optimistic is because United can use his ability in the air. Because if you look at Martial, if you look at Rashford, if you look at Greenwood, they're all great players who have the ability to finish, but they're not that aerially superior. So I think that's where you use Cavani, where he adds that ability to head the ball into the goal. And I think with Telles coming in, that's a huge positive, because the link up that can actually formulate between Telles and Cavani, I think that's something United fans should actually be positive about. And I think Telles has come from Portugal. He's been scouted for a very long time. I think way beyond even 2013. I think there were reports that he has been scouted since 2014. So, United have been admirers. I think I've been a huge fan of his because of his attacking output. Defensively, I would say he's not as good as some might make him out to be, because I think he plays so further up the pitch that he feels that I think it kind of makes up for his defensive fragilities. But his attacking output is as good as a left winger, because if you see his goals and assists, it's like a left winger is actually playing. So I think United should be positive about Telles and about Cavani. I don't think they should be too overcritical about Cavani. With regards to Van de Beek from Ajax, I think another brilliant player. He's played in 3 positions last season at Ajax. He played in the DM role, in the CM role, and in the AM role. So you can see why United have gone for him. I think he was a critical part of the of an Ajax side that did so well in the Champions League. So he was extremely close to move to Real Madrid last summer, but somehow that didn't formulate because of COVID and Madrid not being able to fulfill their fulfill the transfer fee that they promised. So that's where Ajax and Guedo Albers, I think Van de Beek's agent, decided to send him to United, and I think it's a good move for him. He's a young player who's extremely intelligent. So you can see the kind of movements and the impact that he's already had despite playing such few minutes. So I think United fans should be optimistic about the three signings that have been made, which do have a critical impact on the first team. With regards to Pellistri and Traore, I think it's too early to comment on them because frankly I've not seen too much of them. But whatever little I've asked around about these two players, what I'm told is Pellistri is not as explosive a player. He likes to drift and play narrow. That suits Ole's style. I think that's why he's gone for a player like Pellistri. So he's not an explosive player, but he's an intelligent player. So I would say that United fans should be excited about him. I don't think we should overburden him with expectations, but he's certainly got the ability to help United. And with regards to Traore, I think he's exact opposite of Pellistri. So you see why they balance each other out. So Pellistri, while he drifts, I think Traore is an extremely skilled player, brilliant ball control. I think he's an extremely explosive player. So you'll see these players coming and shining in the league once they're given the right amount of time. I think when we speak, when you can ask Prithvi about Havertz, how Havertz has come in. I think he's the best player to come out of Germany in the last 5-6 years. So he should be given time as well. Just like he's been given time, I think United signings should be given time as well.
Yeah, I personally think that United have made a decent bunch of signings. Personally, I think these are all, there are a lot of these big clubs who are always looking at these established players. And Chelsea have sort of, done a bit of both. They've got like a Hakim Ziyech who's like a proper established player. There's an upcoming player in Kai Havertz. There's Timo Werner who's like, sorted right now, and he's got like a lot of experience under him. But I think that personally, obviously, I do think Jadon Sancho is a very good player. But I do think that probably United have gone the way where they might discover the next Jadon Sancho rather than spending out that 120 million and signing Jadon Sancho. However, my personal opinion and a question to you is that do you think that all the areas that needed to be addressed, forget the players that they bought in, I'm talking about proper personnel. So say there was a right-wing issue, so they went ahead and bought two. There was an issue with the striker, they bought in Cavani. There was an issue with the left back, they bought Alex Telles, which is very good. But do you think the DM role, which I personally think is a weak link in the United starting 11, which was doing very well towards the end of last season, when Matic was doing all right and they have the likes of Fred, McTominay who could do a job. But don't you think that should have been because I personally feel that whenever Chelsea has won leagues and they've won titles, they've always had that holding midfielder or a defensive midfielder who puts in a shift. So there's been N'Golo Kante, there's been Makelele, there've been a lot of defensive midfielders, and they're very important in the modern game. You look at a Fernandinho, you look at a Man City with Fernandinho, without Fernandinho last season, and you can see the difference. So do you think United sort of missed a trick by not, I'm not talking about the kind of player they would have signed or, the fees that would have gone into it. I'm talking about, do you think they've missed a trick by not signing a defensive midfielder, considering the fact that that is a very critical position in the modern game?
So Prithvi, when you talk about Matic, I think you would know best, being a Chelsea fan, that he's had his, fights with consistency. I think there are two shades of Matic. One is a Matic who genuinely doesn't turn up, and once it collapses, it just goes bad. But there's a side in Matic where he just explodes, and he's so good on his days that I'm just in awe of him. And I think I saw that side of Matic post January, where he took the reins in his hand, and he allowed Bruno and Pogba to take United to the third position. So I completely agree with you with regards to the importance of a DM. And I think United know the fact that a DM is required at some stage. And I think that's where United were at an initial stage looking at Declan Rice. So when Declan Rice was an option for United, he was quoted at a price of around 60 million. United looked at Sean Longstaff, and he was, priced at around 50 million. So United always feel that they're priced out of players. And I think that's where also when you mentioned that United might not need another Jadon Sancho and they might discover another Jadon Sancho. So I think when you talk about that, I think that's the scouting system plays a huge role at United, because I think having a good scouting system, having the ability to find players who play one or two good seasons at another club and become 120 million players, rather than doing that, just make that player. So I think that's where a good scouting system comes in, and United have accepted the fact that their scouting system has been extremely disorganized in the past. And that's what they're trying to correct in the recent past, because what they're trying to do is that all the potential signings that are supposed to come in from the youth level are discussed with the transfer committee that is in place now. So that shows that there is a little bit of more of a structure that has come into place. Earlier, when Mourinho was there, it was just an absolute shambles, because there was complete disagreement between the manager and the board. And the middleman there was Ed Woodward, who had to kind of negotiate on both parties. So you know for a fact that United are extremely disorganized. When you look at Chelsea, I envy Chelsea because they're an extremely well structured club. There's Marina, who gets the job done in terms of business dealings. There is Peter Cech, who's the director who identifies players, and Lampard, who can go ahead and explain his grievances to the sporting director. He doesn't even have to approach Roman for that. So you should realize the importance of structure at a club. So when you talk about missing targets, yes, it is an absolute travesty, if I must say so, because United go and get linked to more than 100 players every window. And someone who covers transfers on his account, I know the fact that it's extremely painful, because you get linked to one player on a certain day, and next day you're being linked to another random player from a random league. So it's United being misused on several occasions as well by agents. So I think we are at a stage right now where United are trying to slowly get their act together, but the pace at which they're conducting themselves is not at a top level. And I think questions will be asked at some point about the management. And it's the ambition of the owners is reflected in the transfer business that is done. So I think that's the biggest reality check that can possibly happen, in terms of United and the transfer that is done.
Thank you so much for joining, Akash. It has been our pleasure to host you, and thank you for sharing your time.
No, I'm more than happy to come and appear on your podcast. I think Puneet, you and Prithvi both have really helped make it an engaging conversations. And at the end of the day, we all love football, so it's the passion for the game that makes us talk. So I'm more than happy to come, and thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Akash.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you, and keep watching the Sports Box, and keep following the United Link. Thank you. Bye-bye.